to get enough praise of the kind of community support they provide. And just a little bit about me, my email address is provided there, as well as this is the link if you want to schedule a one-on-one session later. The link will be, my calendar will be open all through November of this year. So if you don't see anything that's immediately available to you, just email me and I'll make alternate arrangements. Okay. We went through the intros already, so this is where we are. So first session, for those who weren't with us, we did went over market research. End of last week, Thursday, we started the discussion on strategy. We're going to continue that discussion on strategy, but also focusing a little bit more on the customer and the customer needs. And then on Thursday, we're going to wrap this all up by talking about how do you all pull this all together into your marketing plan. And we'll have an added bonus discussion on branding, which is like, a little bit of the fun part of marketing. So you're going to get a lot of info. Okay. So today's session, we're going to do a quick recap of last session. And then the following 4 sessions are all kind of interrelated. They're really, really big topics, but I've narrowed down the key points into a couple of slides for each. So it's not so overwhelming and you get a lot of the basics. And for each of the areas that we review, there are multiple templates available. So don't feel free. Don't panic that you won't be able to do it later. Don't worry about that. We got you covered on that. So we're going to go over customer jobs, pains, and gains. Then we're going to go over the value proposition canvas and how do you develop our customer persona. Then we'll wrap that up by going over the decision journey as well as the user experience. These are all major components of what you need to understand about your customers so that you can design your marketing strategy in a way that you're going to reach the right person or group of people that are your target audience. Right? Little disclaimer again, there's an abundance of information out there, so we try to pick the most current and up to date. Most of the slides, if I am using outsourced information, I provide references. There's just so much information out there. So I really do try to narrow it down into some very credible and reliable sources that you can go to time and time again for good information. So let's do a recap and reflect. Let me start off by anybody who was here last time. If you want to do any reflection of anything that came to mind as a result of last week's session. I think Ms. Stokes, you're the only one who might have been here beforehand, but you want to share anything of a thing that came to mind or on the top of your head or whatever? Nope. Ms. Jones, anybody say anything?
Nope, not yet.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Mr. Stokes is coming.
Go ahead.
I was muted and talking.
That's okay.
So I was going to say how your point in our last meeting about having purpose, and because I have passion about my years of experience and I just want to be purposeful in the community. So that really struck me and motivated me from coming from such a strong medical background.
Right, because you're the registered nurse, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Great. And yeah, you're the reason why I added a couple new slides in the deck that's coming out from last week. So there's like at least 2 books I'm recommending. They're quick, easy reads about purpose and how that's used in the business world. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right. So let's recap some basic concepts. So our definition of a business that we're working with throughout this entire series, and this is the definition I work with, whether I'm dealing with a nonprofit, which is a lot of the folks that I deal with and on my day-to-day work, or if I'm dealing with small businesses just starting up. So a business is an operation that provides a valuable offering to a customer or a group of customers for payment. This is critical. You have to collect. If you're not collecting, it's just a hobby. Key things about that operation: it's legally established entity, licensed, insured. It has all of the policies, practices in place or evolving in order to provide the valuable offering. We don't say provide a product or service because that valuable offering is both the product and services and the customer experience, which we're going to talk about today. And that customer experience, along with the end item that the person is getting, is going to solve a customer's problem. So that's the heart of what we're going to be talking about today. And that customer could be a single set, a demographic group, or it could be multiple groups, or it could be a different type, whether it be an individual, so that's a B2B customer, or a B2 consumer, or you're a B2B business, meaning you're selling to other businesses, or even B2 government, which in this area of the country, that's a tremendous advantage for you to establish a business in Washington, D.C. In exchange, you're collecting a payment that's timely and efficiently, okay? And it's critical to have that definition in mind because a business is operating in both an internal environment and external environment. And these are forces that are influencing how a business is going to operate. That internal environment is all about the resources, the people, the culture, the setup, and they can be categorized as either strengths or weaknesses. And then the external environment are all of these forces that are pushing on the business, anywhere from customer demands and tastes to societal norms, government regulation, technology. And as one of the biggest lessons learned from COVID is the use of technology in our business and how we've had to evolve really, really quickly in order to stay engaged with our customer. During last week's session, we talked a lot about industry and competition. Okay. We talked about the marketing definition, and we used the American Marketing Association definition, which sounds very elaborate, but because we broke it down, we now know it's not as complicated as it seems, because marketing as a concept is all about making a profit as a result of serving the needs of the customer. So the marketing at the core of it is customer orientation. That's its focus. The focus is not necessarily on the product. The focus is not on the selling. The focus is not on the business. Your only focus when you're thinking about your marketing is how do you solve the customer's problem by delivering value. Okay. We talked about it. We gave a little intro on the marketing strategy. So this is the steps that we went through. So you do your market research. That was session 1. Out of that, we talked about using the 5 forces template as a way of starting to document the research that you found. You're going to start doing some brainstorming after you get information about your industry and competition and the demographics. We talked about all the different types of marketing. So that's just where you're starting to think about what types will fit your business, meaning what types of marketing that are going to fit your business, the products you're offering, and most importantly, the customers that you're focusing on. So today's session, we're going to go over the value proposition, which is the core of the customer orientation. And then Thursday, we're going to wrap up how do you pull all this together into a plan. All right. Before I start, anybody got any burning questions or thoughts as a result of the recap? Very good. Okay. So there are about four key concepts we're going to talk about that are related to customers. There is a concept regarding understanding your customer by understanding their jobs, pains, and gains. Every customer has a job to do, and while they're doing their job, they either experience some pain points. That's a big common terminology you'll hear in the market world. And so the products they want to buy or the solution they're looking for is going to give them some sort of gain. And also understanding our customer, we got to understand the buyer center. We got to understand the decision-making journey that a customer goes through to make a final purchase. And then we got to understand what is going to be our marketing and sales funnel that is going to be in alignment with the decision making that customer is going to make. So let's go through those concepts. Number 1, jobs. As I said, you're going to start by identifying your customer and their jobs. So the jobs are things customers are trying to get done in their work and or in their lives. So when you get a demographic profile, you're not only going to think about just about the things that are immediately related to your product, you're going to think holistically about that person. What are they trying to do? And there are three major types of jobs that you're going to try to think about. One is the personal or emotional. Customers seek a specific emotional state. Business is all about feeling. Customers buy products for a feeling they're going to get by acquiring that product, whether it's relief, whether it's satisfaction, whether it's joy, whatever it is. You need to identify that emotional state a customer might be seeking when they're looking for the products, a type of product that you're offering. There is a social job, meaning that customers may want to look good or gain power or status. This is now about how customers want to be perceived. So number one is about their feeling. Number two is how they want to be perceived. And you can see how a lot of the luxury brands really tap into this job that customers want to do. The last job category is functional. Customers are trying to get a specific task done or solve a specific problem. So when you think about your customers, as they go about their daily lives, the jobs they're doing are going to be either one or all of those three types of jobs. So it's your job as the entrepreneur, owner of the business, to figure out which of these job types are most applicable to your potential customer. So these are the jobs. A customer then experiences pain, something that's annoying to them while they're trying to get their job done. Okay. So a pain is simply prevents the customer from getting the job done. It could be an undesired outcome, a problem, an obstacle, or risk. So this is where you got to dig a little deeper to try to understand what makes their job difficult to do. And don't worry, I have an example, so we're gonna walk through that in a second. So a customer has jobs they got to get done, but while they're trying to get that job done, they're going to encounter what we call pain points. And then the third component of that are gains, customer gains. Gains are the desired outcomes or benefits your customer wants. So if they have a problem, they're looking for a solution. They're going to buy your product expecting to gain something, to have a desired outcome as a result. So that gain needs to match up with the jobs and the pain point. Okay, so there are four types of gains. There are acquired gains. This is about as simple and basic as it gets. These are gains without which a solution wouldn't work. So for an example, if you're selling smartphones, at the end of the day, the smartphone must make a call. That's its most basic function. It's a required function of any smartphone. It doesn't matter how smart it is, it doesn't make a telephone call, it's not worth it. There's an expected gain. These are relatively basic gains that we expect from a solution, even if it could work, even if we could do without them. So going back to the smartphone example, a smartphone, number one, must be able to make a call, but it's really helpful and nice for the customer if it has a certain design or aesthetic that is pleasing to the customer. It's not an absolute requirement, but it's expected that they're not going to pay a few $100s for a phone and it to be the ugliest thing ever. Okay. A desired gain is these are gains that go beyond what we expect from a solution, but love to have it if we could. So back to the smartphone example. So we have a smartphone. It's got to make a call. Number two, it'd be really nice if it looks really good and looks really sleek or fits our personality, we can get it in the color we want. If that's an example. And then if it integrates with other devices, that would be a desired gain. Might not be something they absolutely need or want, but it's putting another layer of like, oh my goodness, this really fits what I need. Okay. And you can imagine if you are a busy mother or if you're a busy entrepreneur like yourself, if your smartphone is integrating with your Outlook, if your smartphone is integrating with your computer, all of that is an added benefit to you. In addition to making calls, in addition to looking good, it has all this other functionality that makes my life easier. okay? And then it's the unexpected gains. Now, this takes a lot of deep dive into product research and development, what a lot of small business owners don't do. So you think about that. This means that the product goes beyond expectation and desires. This is where you are providing customers features and benefits they never could have imagined. Back to the smartphone example. So yes, smartphone must be able to make a call. It's expected that it has a nice design. It's desired that it be able to integrate with other devices, but Apple, before they introduced touchscreens in the App Store to the mainstream, nobody saw that coming. That was not something that was on our radar as customers. It was not something that a customer could even, articulate at that time before the iPhone came out. This was just so unexpected. So they really studied the market and say, how can we just layer on these benefits that now the iPhone now fulfills all of these gains, not just one or two of them, but all of these gains. And just to be clear, your product doesn't have to do all of these. You can start off at a lower level, and as time progresses, you can add to it. Or you can be very targeted in terms of what your product will do. So that gives you a lot of flexibility to think about, what is your product really going to do for your customer? Other thing to think about, each customer group or subtype within a customer group may have different jobs, pains, and gains. So you don't want to lump everybody into one category, which is why we're going to talk about the customer persona. You really need to differentiate and segment the market. So if you're going after busy entrepreneurs, are you going after men? Are you going after women? What is the age range? What is the demographic profile in terms of racial, ethnicity, educational background? All of those factors about a person might change their job as well as their pains and gains. Okay, so just think about it. Now, most entrepreneurs and small business owners are going to want to skip this step because they're going to seem like it's too much work. It's best to do the research as a stepping stone, as a technique, as a mechanism to grow your business. The research is critical. So please, please, please don't overlook this and think, oh, this is just too much. Okay, it is not. Okay. So here's a very quick and dirty template that you can use for you to try to develop the value proposition and customer fits. So we're going to use the same jobs to be done philosophy, and you're gonna have there's a template where it's two sides of the sheet. There's the value proposition side, and there's what's called the customer profile side, right? So for each customer group, you're going to identify their jobs. And when you see the template, it's very simple. You just write down bullet points or sticky notes. It's nothing elaborate, okay? So you're going to write down their jobs. You're going to write down the pain points they might have, and you're going to write down their expected gains. But all of this must be associated with the product or service. So if you have different products and services, you have to do a different value proposition sheet, okay? Don't try to lump everything all on one sheet. Also, you want to do one of these value proposition canvases for each customer group. So you might have to do multiple of these, okay? So on the value proposition side, what you're going to do for the products and services that you are marketing that are going to solve the customer's job, you're going to write down the features of your product that are the pain relievers, okay? And then you're going to write down the features or the aspects of your product that you think are gain creators. So what's happening is the pain relievers should be relieving pain. The gain creators should be matching up to gains. Here's the beauty of this. You do not have to address all of the jobs of a customer or customer group. You do not have to address all of the pain points. You do not even have to address all of the gains that a customer might expect. What you're trying to get is the right fit that will be a marketable product. So let's look at an example. Okay. So one more step before I want to highlight. I added this slide in because in the last slide, it talked about a customer profile. That's the same thing as saying customer persona. So for each customer group, you want to come up in your head, would have been an example of that for that group. So let's say you're going after young mothers who are entrepreneurs. You could pick a picture off the internet, you give a fictitious name, and what you're going to do, you're going to try to do research to collect as much information about that type of person. So let's say this is a African-American female between the ages of 25 and 35, has 1 to 2 children. And so you'll start filling in that little bit of information there. This is the minimum amount of information you want to jot down on this template. The rest of this information, you want to understand what's their technology uses, the social media, what are the goals and motivations, what are their personality trait challenges. Now you're saying, where do I get this information? This is where the research becomes key. So if you're already in business, you want to review your current customer database to try to get an idea of what are the trends that you observe from your current customers or your leads, meaning the potential customers that might have contacted you, submitted a proposal, reached out to you via social media. Because what you want to do, you want to look at their background. You want to look at their age, where they're located, what's their gender, what kind of questions did they ask you? Because then you want to try to fill in all this other information. And you will not have all of it at one sitting. You're going to collect this over time, okay? You're going to also look at what kind of questions do you have on your website forms. Of course, you might ask about their gender, age range, their location. You might ask about their interests if they're going to submit an inquiry to you. So that's a good source of information. You're going to consider your own sales or your team's feedback on the different types of customers they meet throughout the day, or the types of folks who say they're interested in what your business is offering. You might even do some focus groups. You might have some results from customer surveys. One thing I like to do, because sometimes you don't have a whole lot of past data of customers, particularly if you're new. I like to look at review sites like Yelp for product offerings that might be similar to mine, because that's the public freely giving up their complaints or their compliments. But sometimes you get good information about maybe their gender or where they're located, but they might say what, the things they might like about a product or another company or something like that. That's what you want to start jotting down here. You want to ask family and friends. Never forget to ask family and friends. Also, I review competitor websites. Many competitors, depending on your industry, might have their own blog. They might have their own reports, and they can give you a lot of information that you can glean about the potential customer base. Also, back to what we talked about doing the market research. You're going to have those industry reports that you're going to get from researching your industry. So you're going to look at developing customer personas, and it's for each customer group that you want to use in the value proposition canvas. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions so far? We good? All right.
No questions.
Great. Okay. So here's what you do. I've given you 2 examples. These are not of the same company. One is of Tesla, one is of Toyota. I use this because they're developed by a very recognizable expert in the field called Strategizer. There is a free blank template. There is a how to do it steps. You can use this link below. So here I'm going to walk you through it. So you start collecting information, right? So the first thing you need to fill out is what are your products and services that you're going to market. So you're going to write that in here. And then, like I said, if you have the electronic version, I actually use the actual app. There's a software for this. and it literally creates little stickies, and you just write down whatever your product is that you're trying to market. And remember, you're not selling all your products to every customer group, okay? So you write them out here. So for Tesla, at the time that this was done, there was the Model S and there was the Model X. For Toyota, they had their models for the Veroso, and they had some of their sports and the Land Cruiser and the Prius. So they distinctly separated a couple of their model groups because their Toyota offers a wide range of automobiles in comparison to Tesla. Okay, so you can write down your products and services here. Now you have to think about what are the jobs to be done. But here's the kicker to this. You have to notate what's the customer persona, what's the customer group that you're going after. So for Tesla, this is the most distinct thing from the two canvases that you need to focus on. So for Tesla, they're going after male, upper middle class, who make an income of 100,000 plus, right? Look at Toyota. They're going after also male, but it's a middle class, middle income, 50 to 75K, totally different customer groups. Now, if they both had said they're going after men, they would not be able to break this canvas down like we're doing today. That's why it's so critically important to have some idea of the customer persona. You might not have it all, but an age range, an income range, at least a location is going to be helpful, okay? So for Tesla, let's look at Tesla. So for Tesla, they wrote down for this middle income male, 100,000 plus, upper middle class male, 100,000 plus income. Their jobs to be done are they got to commute to work. This is pre-COVID, of course. They got to commute to work. They like to convey an image of success. Personal mobility, meaning, they want to be able to jump in their car and go. They occasionally might make a long distance trip, and they like to be different from others. So you can see some of the characteristics that they identify were not all just related about cars, which is why that customer persona is so critical, because these are the jobs to be done. This person in their life wants to be different. Yeah, they got to commute to work, but who doesn't? They like image of success. Those are two critical key points about that group that Tesla is actually tapping into. It just so happens they were selling cars at the time. Okay. Now let's look at the pain points that this type of person may have. Okay. So for their pain points, they buy before the price drop. Okay. They consider there's a lack of charging stations for electric vehicles. They fear having a dead battery if they were to buy an electric vehicle. They just think it has frequent charging, accidents, or harming themselves with this new type of vehicle. Okay, again, it's the customer's perception of what might be difficult about owning an electric vehicle. Now let's look at what the gains that were indicated here. Okay, so if they were to buy a electric car, they would like to have like brand recognition. They would like to have a nice design. They would like to get compliments from friends, right? They like it to perform like a sports car. Here's the range they would like before they have to recharge. Seating for 4 to 7, so they have some flexibility of how many people they want to carry with them. Battery technology high-end, and they want high safety rating. So they want a higher end product, but they want a product that's going to perform. So you fill out this part, guess what? And then you go back to your products and services and you start to write down what are your potential pain relievers, okay? So for the Model X and the Model S, there's charging 45 to 90 kilometers. There's 5+ seating. They even have some models that have smaller number of seating. And look at this pain reliever. Their Tesla has a charging network. Okay. So if you're looking, they only wrote down 3 pain relievers, right? And then let's look at the game creators. So the performance 0 to 100 in 6 seconds. That's really, really good, right? There's a focus on design and style. There's autonomous car. There's a high-tech feel because it has a 17-inch touchscreen. Okay. Now, if this was your company and you developed this value proposition canvas, you would start to think, okay, what pain relievers do I have and what pains does it match up to it? What are my game creators? And then what gains does it match up to? Because it doesn't have to be everything. Like I said, this charging network solves many of the pain points that this potential buyer indicated, right? This focus on design, the sport performance, the high technology fulfills many of the gains that this particular customer group would like to have. As a result, these are the elements, these gain creators or pain relievers end up being parts of the value proposition that Tesla promotes in its advertising. Okay. Now, let me pause here. Does that make sense to everybody? What are you guys thinking so far? Everybody's good? I'll take that and everybody's good. Okay. Now, if you look over at the Toyota side of things, they write down that you can see this also was a fit. So the jobs to be done, they commute, but there's family activities. They convey an image of a happy family, less about success, more about family. That distances from home is not very far, personal mobility, so that they share the same kind of job as the Tesla customer in terms of personal mobility. But let's look at the pains. They buy before the price drop, okay. They lack charging stations, so that was an issue for them. Fear that something will happen to the car, also an issue for them. Frequent charging, accident, and harm, okay. Also, some similarities to Tesla. They also in their gains, brand recognition, design, that's similar to Tesla. But look at the other difference here. They want something that is going to perform for the family, which is different from the Tesla company because the Tesla company wants something that's going to perform like a sports car. Seating is similar to the Tesla, and safety is also a concern. But if you look at Toyota's value proposition, the pain relievers, they have the seating and they have safety as a big part of their product. That's different from Tesla. Tesla is all about the charging network. Pain reliever for Toyota that they offer is all about safety. The gains, they all about the comfort because what it's about the family. There's cruise control. There's enough comfort and space for everybody. Yes, urban style hybrid car. There are some similarities to what Tesla may offer. But as you can see, Tesla is going to addressing the upper middle class male, 100,000 K, because they're going after their need for image of success, but also fulfilling the basic need of having transportation. Toyota, on the other hand, is going after the guy that has a family who wants comfort, some style, but most importantly, family and comfort. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, great. Because guess what? Here's an example of their advertising. Okay. This is not current advertising. I tried to match up the advertising with the time period that the value proposition canvas was done. So here's Tesla's ad. Very simple image of a car, simple fonts. They have some text, so there's some reading involved. So this is in a magazine, and they have their logo displayed. Look at the tagline. Yesterday, you wanted a Ferrari. So they're tapping into their potential market's job of wanting to portray an image of success. And they said, instead of thinking about a Ferrari, you can think about an electric car. Because guess what? we have a sport performance like a sport performance of our vehicle, which was unheard of in the electric car market before Tesla. So they're actually trying to steal customers from Ferrari, right? So this fits the customer's job, it relieves the pain, and it gives them a gain because they're focusing all on the sports performance and image of success. Now look at Toyota. Prius was one of the models that they indicated on their value proposition canvas. And here, what do they say? Not a whole lot about the electrical status of the Prius, right? It says breathing room. That's it. That's the whole tagline, breathing room. So they're trying to emphasize comfort. And then if you read a little on the smaller print, it talks about their cruise control that's now standard. We're right back to the comfort, the space, the family-oriented part of the vehicle, okay? Now, I tried to find the most simplest ad that says the greatest volume. You do not have to promote everything about your business in your product and services. If you know who you're targeting, you devise the right message that's going to speak directly to the problem they think they have. And these are two perfect examples of these car companies, very different car companies, but are still competing against each other in the electric car market, okay? So these are just examples of going from your value proposition canvas to actually developing and advertising using the value proposition. Okay, any questions, any thoughts? Or what, or is everybody all good? Can everybody just raise your hand or put something in the chat to let us know that you're good? Oh, we got a question. Do you have a question or are you just saying you're good?
Just saying I'm good. Lots of information
Okay.
about focusing on the customer and how you hone in on what it is that attracts them.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Lots of practice. Don't think you get it right in the first time. Lots of practice, okay? So now I gave you an example of a value proposition canvas in which the product, service, gains, pains all aligns. And now I just wanted to highlight an example where it doesn't fit, okay? So take a look at it. I want everybody just take a minute or so to take a look at it and can see if you can tell me where is the misfit in this particular canvas, because the canvas can also tell you when things fit, and it's also useful to tell you when things are not fitting, okay? So I'll give you a moment to review this one. Give you a few more seconds there. Okay, anybody want to take a stab on why this is a misfit?
Is it is the one that says it's like a sports vehicle?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. So on the gain side of things, right? This particular customer would like a sports like feel, and the products that they're offering, right? These models are not really sporty. They got some other, good things to them, but they're not sporty. So that's a good one. Anybody else? Or do you see any other misfits? Any other thoughts? Anybody else?
Ms. Stokes, are you saying anything?
Well, is it that it conveys success, an image of success?
Yes. So this particular customer group wants an image of success, right?
Uh-huh.
And wants to be different. And these particular models that they're trying to emphasize don't really
Right.
do that. These are
Right.
very
That's what I
standard,
thought.
yep, very standard models. Yeah, that's a good one. I'll point out one more is in the pain category. Toyota is all about the safety, and they had far more pains that regarding the battery and charging than safety. So yes, it is help for the accident and harm, but there were 3 other pain points about the battery and the length of the charge. So they didn't address that. And then look at the gain creators. Okay, so the gains, the person is interested in the sport-like feel, brand recognition, and yes, there's some style component to these models, but it's not anything that's over the top to address all these other high-end requests that this person would like. Okay, so this value proposition canvas makes sense to everybody. Any questions? Okay, so there is at the bottom, I provided the source article. Now, when you go to this site, there's a free download to a blank template, okay? Also, this is one of my favorite sites I like to use. It's called Design a Better Business. There's a book associated with it, right? Now, on their website, they have many different types of templates regarding marketing, building a business, all these other kinds of stuff. And it's all the templates are free. So feel free to go on there and download your free templates. Okay. All right. So
I also dropped the link in the chat earlier.
Perfect. So we just talked about the value proposition because that's the core of what the product has to do. It has to provide value to the customer. Now we're on the other side of things. We got to think about what are the steps that the customer goes through before making the decision to make a purchase. You got to understand the mindset of the customer. And so what happens is that they go through, and we've all done this, so you got to think about the last time you ordered something online or bought something in a store. We go through a series of steps. And here's the thing I need you to remember. At any given time, a customer can stop going through the series and backtrack. And that's something we don't always think about. So the first phase of the customer decision journey, also called the customer journey mapping, is that there is some triggering event that says, I need something, or this is a problem. I wish there was a better way. Whatever that verbiage may be, there's some sort of triggering event where they said, oh, I need something. And in that mode, they're in what we call the awareness mode. There's a recognition of a problem, and they start to search for options. For many of us, we go straight online and we do a Google search. For some others, it may be asking a colleague or a friend or a family member. So there are many ways we actually start asking around. Hey, have you ever had this problem? Or do you know where I can get those kinds of questions? They start looking at options. Then they start to explore the different options and started to narrow down which ones might be more fitting for their problem or need. Okay, so that's considered the consideration and active evaluation phase. So they're gathering information, they're researching, they're evaluating all their choices. And here's the thing, they're assessing value. They're trying to determine, is this thing going to solve my problem? And then they start to determine what are the features and benefits? What are the pain points this product is going to solve? What are the gains I might get? And including on top of that might be the pricing. So then you get down to making a decision, And that's called the acquisition phase. So that's when the person decides, okay, I'm going to buy this because they're buying the value. They're buying a solution to their problem. And that's when they make the purchase and the business actually collects payment. Okay. So that's the first part of the customer journey map. Oops. I think one of my slides, so my slides were in the wrong order. I'm sorry about that. The second phase of the customer journey map is the post-purchase experience. This is where many businesses do not focus. You think because the person has picked up the product or they're walking out of the store with a shopping bag that you're done as a business. Absolutely not, okay? So they made a payment. There's maybe a delivery aspect, so you have to think about that. If not, if there's no delivery aspect, there's a usability aspect of it. So this is when the person starts to use your product or service, and they might decide at any given time they might need to return it. There is a supplement and maintenance part of the service. So I'm using the product. The example that's very clear that to understand about this is if you buy a printer. If you buy a printer, to maintain it to be in working order, you have to buy the printer cartridges. And this is why you see some TV ads from printer manufacturers. They focus all on the ink and the cartridges and less on the actual printer, because this is in that particular industry and in that particular type of product, this is the key part of the customer's decision journey. Okay. And then lastly is disposal. It's this disposal of the packaging. It's disposal of the product when it's no longer functioning or you've used it up. You got to think about, is it difficult to dispose of? I give you a personal story. I discontinued a meal prep service because there was too much stuff to get rid of, because all of the packaging, they send the food in to get it to you so it's still fresh and cold. I was like, this is just too much. And when I canceled the subscription, they asked, was the disposal one of the reasons you were discontinuing? So they know that is a possible pain point. And they're trying to collect data on how many people that might be a problem. I guarantee you over time, the food delivery services are going to improve all of the packaging that's necessary, okay? So this is the post-purchase experience. When you conquer the entire process, that's when you build customer loyalty, okay? So the other flip side of the coin is your business's sales and marketing funnel. And what I have done, I put the customer journey right alongside the steps the customer goes through your marketing and sales funnel. So the customer journey is what the customer goes through. The marketing and sales funnel are your steps that you have in your business to reach out to find the right customer and get them to make a purchase, okay? So the person is going to move to what's called the market opportunity phase, prospect phase, respondent or lead phase before they actually become a customer. Because in each of these phases, you're going to have a different touch point, a different point of engagement or contact, because there are different stages of engagement with your business. So at the market opportunity stage, they're unidentified individuals looking for products and services. So, and the individual on the customer journey, they're in their awareness phase. They recognize they have a problem and they go, okay, I need to look around and search for my options, because you know that you will have certain touch points in which your advertisement will speak to that awareness phase or that problem recognition phase. And so on your website, you might have verbiage about, is this your problem? On social media, you might have posts about that. You might have events to do customer demonstrations, or you might just have straight up advertising, just like Tesla did. Tesla's tagline was, yesterday you were thinking about a Ferrari. So if your problem was that you want to be perceived as successful, they had an ad that was spoke directly to you, okay? So they go from a market opportunity to the prospect group. These are folks who have identified themselves and provided you with at least one communication channel. That means they provided you a phone number, they've reached out to you with their email or submitted their email address, they started to follow you on social media or submitted a comment. When somebody does that, and using these touch points, they have given you permission to reach out to them, okay? So then how you remain contact with them is going to be different than they were when they were suspects. You got to see they're in the respondent phase when individuals engage with their business. So if they're going back and forth with you, meaning they're making more comments on your social media, they're sharing your comment, they might even call you or email you or messenger you. They might even, if you're an e-commerce site, they might put stuff in the cart. They might even get to the checkout page. They might even ask you for a proposal or a potential contract. So this is a lead. So many times in marketing, there's a lot of information about getting someone to the lead stage. That means they are aware they have a problem. They started looking for options and they're making a decision on what they want to buy, okay? Lastly is the actual purchase. Because sometimes when we've all done this, they'll get to the checkout page. They'll receive your proposal. They'll even accept your proposal or accept your contract, but they don't execute the contract or complete the payment process. They are not a customer until they have acquired your product. So you have to think about how often and what's the message you need to convey to keep in touch with your customer as they're going through the entire customer journey decision-making process. And we've all done it. At each of these phases, all of us have turned back and be like, you know what? I don't need that anymore. Or you know what? That's too expensive. Or no, you know what? I don't have time for this. Okay? Whatever it may be, but you're trying to encourage them at every given point to keep going. So then in the post-purchase, it's all about on the decision-making part, it's all about the customer service. Okay. And many of us have been turned off. We get the shipment from Amazon or Best Buy, and the delivery was just awful, or the packaging was awful. And so guess what? We return it. Or we get the product and it's the wrong size, or you don't know how to use it. It didn't come with any instructions, or you had an issue with it, but you couldn't find customer support. Then they return the package. Or they can have a problem when it's time to get the supplement or maintenance. And that could be anything, like I said, with the printer. And then they can have an issue at the after use and disposal, the package, the waste, etc. This phase, the post-purchase, is going to vary dramatically based upon your industry. So you really do need to write down all of the steps that a customer goes through to make a decision to buy and keep your product, because you really can't count this as a sale and profit made until the return phase is over. So as a small business, you have to be very mindful, particularly if you're selling a product, about what is the return policy. It is one of the more common web pages that a potential customer will view before making a purchase. Because if you say your return policy is 90 days, guess what? They paid their money. You literally have to wait till 90 days has expired before you really know that they're keeping your product. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Is that clear? Right? So, but in some industries, you can't not have a return policy. You can't not have a 30-day or 60-day return policy. So it's really important to do your industry research to say what is standard or what is expected from your industry. Okay? So understand the decision that the customer is going through before to buy and keep your product. Okay. Again, I provided another link for another set of tools you can easily download. Okay. All right. Any questions? Thoughts, issues? I know this is a lot, but this is a big, marketing is a big topic, right? They have PhD programs on marketing, just to let you know how intense this can elevate as a business discipline, okay? All right, seeing no hands raised or nothing in the chat. Monica, anything in the chat? Okay.
Nothing in the chat. No
Perfect.
hands raised.
Perfect. So one little thing I just want to add, where are what we call 6 roles of the buying center. Sometimes the people we're marketing to are not necessarily the people who are actually going to use the product. They're going to pay for the product, or even the ones who are going to put in the order for the product. So you just got to understand that sometimes in your marketing, you might have to market to other people that might be associated with those who are going to use your product, okay? You have those that are initiators. So that's you and I, right? We recognize we have a problem. We're like, okay, I need to go find X, Y, or Z, right? So that's easy to understand. We have those who are the influencers, right? We all have somebody we call when we have a problem. Sometimes as a marketer, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you might market to the influencer as well as the person who might actually use your product, because they're going to spread the word. They're going to be like, oh, I saw this ad about something, or whether or not, and you're going to be like, and they're going to pass on the information. You might also be marketing to the deciders, so those who are making the final decision. So this is key when you're dealing with like industries like products for children, right? You go to the cereal ad. Yes, the design of the cereal box is tailored to the child or the little baby, because there's colorful. It's gonna, it has all the sugar. It's gonna have cartoon characters. It's to attract their attention. But you might have other features on the cereal box that's fit for the decider. So it's the mother who's going down that cereal aisle. She might look at the price. She might look to see, does this thing have vitamins and minerals added to it? So sometimes as marketers, you might have to look to see, do I need to say something about my product that's more targeted to the deciders, those who are actually going to make the final decision? And then those who are actually the buyers, those who are actually responsible for paying. Lastly, you have the end users and the gatekeepers. Okay, so the end user, those who are going to use the product when it actually is purchased. And then you have the gatekeepers, those who control the flow of information. Some of these other roles are more important if you're targeting government agency or other businesses. Maybe a little less important if you're doing individuals or families or households, but you just got to recognize in your industry what is going to be common. You also have to recognize, based upon your products and services and the type of customers you're going after, if there are other people you might need to reach out to in addition to the person who might be actually using the product. Okay. Questions, thoughts? How does everybody feel? I know we got a lot we covered. It's the last big topic. Monica, anything in the chat? Nope. Okay, great. So we'll move it along. So we've talked about the value proposition. We've talked about customer persona. We've talked about the customer buying decision process. The last thing I want to add to that is you got to understand what's called the user or customer experience. These are just some helpful tips to help you with the design of not only your product, but the design of your marketing. Because remember, we said that a business is an operation that provides a valuable offering. And that offering is the products and services and the experience, okay? So this is just an overview of how you have to think about the decision-making process, the buying process, are these 7 factors easy to recognize in your process? So thinking about the customer experience, there's 7 factors you want to consider, okay? Number 1, is it useful? For all intents and purposes, going back to the jobs to be done, as well as the gains and the pains, the product has to have a purpose, a bare bones minimum. In addition to that, it has to be usable. So useful and usable kind of go together. And when we say usable, you're concerned about the user's ability to achieve the objective. So 5 characteristics. Is your product effective? Is it efficient? Is it engaging? Is it free from error? And is it easy to learn how to use? Okay. Sometimes if you just tweak any number of these items, you can increase or track the value proposition of your product. Because if it's hard to learn, if I got to read a manual, but it's a product that I shouldn't have to read a manual, it's more likely I'm going to return that product. Okay. Next factor you might need to consider, is it credible? We buy, remember, we buy based upon the feeling, based upon the perception from others, and based upon the job that just needs to be done. So you got to think about the credibility. Can we trust your product? Okay. You got to make sure it will last. It will not break easily. It will do as it says it will do. If it is supposed to be delivered in 2 to 3 days, is it going to be delivered in 2 to 3 days? All of those steps in the customer decision journey, you need to make sure whatever you're saying is actually reality. Okay. You don't want to be deceptive. Number 4, is it desirable? There's no good providing a product that nobody wants. So it actually has to solve the problem, or has to, in terms of addressing a pain, or provide a significant gain that people are going to go out their way to buy your product. Number 5, this is huge. This is where a lot of social media comes into play. This is where your advertising comes into play. Is it findable? This is where your website also comes into play. Can I find you in a Google search? Can I call around or ask around, and people will mention your name? So you got to make sure whatever means you're using to promote your business, that customers can find you. We talked about this in the last session as well as the first session. Search engine optimization is going to be key. Is your website, your social media associated with the right keywords that your potential customers are going to use regarding their problem? All right. So you got to think about that. That's a whole universe in itself. But
Dr.
think
Walker?
about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Walden has his hand up. Walden?
She could finish the point. I'm waiting until she finishes, because it's to this actual factor that I wanted to ask the question. So
Okay, great. So easy to find, and then it's not only finding your business and the product, but also information on how to use it, any other process. How do I return it? You want to make sure that content is also easy to find. So go ahead, Walden. Your question.
yes. So is there such a thing as, for myself and for everybody else, is there such a thing as over marketing or over promoting your business or your services and products?
Yes. Yes. You can actually turn off customers because they're seeing you too much. So it's a very fine and delicate line you have to kind of do a dance with. For instance, if I bought a product from you, or you bought a product from a company, and of course you have to submit your email address if it's going to be delivered and stuff like that. And then for the next 6 months, they're hitting you up with emails every day about a special or a sale or something, you're going to get annoyed. Now, in their customer, their marketing funnel, they just have, once I get your email address, they automate, they're going to send you emails every so often until you buy again or something like that, right? But if they don't understand me as a customer and then realize I don't want to get emails from you every day, once a month might be fine. But if you overwhelm me, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm going to what? Unsubscribe from the email list. I might never even mention you to a friend or a family member. I may never go to your site to buy again because I had a bad post-purchase experience. And so it can also happen upfront when you're trying to find new customers. And the other classic example is the direct mail we get, right? I cannot check my mailbox for months and it'll be nothing important in there, but it'll be a stack of mail of advertising. It might be one thing in there that might be important, but I already got it via email for something. So direct mail can be annoying, email can be annoying, cold calling or solicitations, knocking on doors. I see some companies going back to that old school way. So yes, you can overdo it, which so that customer persona is very important. If you are reading the industry reports and those customers are reporting they don't like to get 5,000 emails, then you have to address your strategy as a result. So yes, great question, but you can overdo it.
So got it. Great. And there's a follow-up to that. And
Sure.
I last year when I was 2 years ago when I was in the process of purchasing my home, there was this realtor that I came across his information in a business.
Okay.
And many of you probably have seen it because I think he's under this findable type of factor. Easy Woodoko.
Okay.
But literally he's everywhere, like yard signs, bus stops, his sign there. There go. So
Somebody said in the
everywhere.
chat, he's everywhere.
He's everywhere, right? So
Right.
it made him, to me, findable. And when I
Right.
reached out, the first conversation was like pretty cool and everything. But then I didn't get the vibe of like, hey, I want to work with you anymore. So I told him that, but then he called to kind of like, hey, why don't you want to go further? And then after we went over that, like 3-4 different times, still text me, still call.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, I already bought my house.
Yeah.
I don't need you anymore.
But yet that is a perfect example because that person is no longer marketing for the point of providing a value to the customer. And they might be running after the money. They might be running after the prestige that, oh, I own a business. I want everybody to know I'm in business. So that's why we say that marketing is about being customer focused. It's not only building a product or service that's fitting a customer need, but it's also all the other contact is fitting the need of that particular customer group. And for some people, they might want a realtor that everybody knows because that's feeding something about them, right? They want to say, oh yeah, I have so-and-so, and that works for them. For other people like me, I don't want people to know my realtor. I don't need you. No, don't do that. Don't do that. But you have to understand your industry. And because in some industries, being a little bit more aggressive it's acceptable. Like if you go to a used car sales lot, you know what you're gonna get. You go in prepared, but that's that industry, that's acceptable. That's not acceptable at Target. You know what I mean? You just can't get away. You can't go in Tiffany's and think they just swarm you. All of a sudden they're gonna keep a respectable distance, letting you know they're there if you have questions. Most jewelry stores, they don't show the price because in that industry, that's not what you do, right? Some high-end stores, they assume you came in here knowing what you could afford. So we're just here to display it for you. So high-end stores don't have a whole lot of product. It's a lot of spacing, it's a lot of decor. Whereas lower cost retailers, they got a lot of product because they want to give you the impression that you're getting a deal, because it's so much volume. So you got to understand all of that: industry, competition, customer, and yourself. Because sometimes you should be in the industry because you might not fit it.
Yep.
Yep. So a great point.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, I've had some really bad experiences, something like that. But the mail, it gets me. The mail and emails, that's the thing for me. Yeah. Anybody else got a question or comment? You good, Monica? Okay, good.
You're good.
All right. So the last two factors are you accessible? And I highlighted a particular line here. It says accessed by users with a full range of abilities. This has become more and more important over time because we've had a lot of conversation in society about equity. We often neglect potential customers that might be hearing impaired, visually impaired, or have maybe a physical disability. They are just as good as any other paying customer, but sometimes we don't target them. Our website may not be user-friendly because the colors are clashing. And if you're visually impaired, that might be a problem for you. Or if you're hearing impaired, you don't have a translator on your website. So think about those communities that might be left off of your radar simply because you're not thinking about everyone that might be potentially your customer. And then lastly, and it just reemphasizing everything else we've said already, it must deliver the value, okay? Is it valuable? And again, not valuable from your perspective, but valuable from the customer's perspective. So the customer needs to tell you and reaffirm it's valuable. And you'll know that if they're reordering, you know that if they submit a review and it's positive, you'll know that if if they're referring you to others. So it's not just a one-time purchase, it's all those other things that indicate if your product is valuable. Okay. All right. So I just got some examples. So the next 5 minutes is just fun time. Okay. I wanted to continue our conversation last time, examples of marketing strategies. So I thought GoPro was another good one. And I thought this one was good because it's a camera company literally about capturing moments when you're in movement, which is totally like opposite of how we think about most photography. And so this is a user-generated content-led marketing strategy. So they encourage their users to submit their photograph. This saves the company money because they don't even have to do the advertising. You go on their Instagram, they got the users posting and they repost it. And then it encourages other users to want to share as well and be a part of the entire experience. Okay. Now, an example of one that has failed is Segway. They initially came out because they're supposed to be the alternative to walking. I know you're thinking that's odd, but at the time, that was the idea, right? And they learned that people didn't want a machine to submit to replace all their other forms of transportation, walking, running, cycling. They didn't want to give up everything for a Segway. And that's why you see they sold well for like tour groups and police departments, that kind of thing, right? But they didn't work well for the individual. So the lesson here is target market research. And just because your product is cool doesn't mean it's fitting for the customer. They have rebounded. So that's also the other lesson. You can come back from a poor marketing strategy. You can revise your product. You can go back to square zero and do it all over again. So don't think failure is not the end. Okay. The other example I want to provide here is CDW technology company. So they're marketing to businesses and governments. And so you can see how their ads are, if you want to use the Tesla and the Toyota example, completely different. Look at the scenes, the pictures they've chose. It's all workplaces. They're emphasizing value proposition about information technology. So they might be targeting the influencer or the person who's the buyer. So it'll be the IT director, not necessarily the people who might be using the computer. So they're a different type of example of a company selling to other companies. Best Buy, we all know Best Buy. So here they're emphasizing to the individual But can you look at their value proposition in this particular ad? Anybody has a thought on that? What are they promoting?
Black Friday?
Yes. What about it?
Opening on Thanksgiving Day.
Thank you. So,
Oh,
yes.
wait. Oh,
So again, you don't have to promote everything, right? So they pick the right products to be in the pictures. So iPad TVs, everybody wants to get a deal on the electronics on Black Friday, but they wanted to promote the value proposition that they're going to be open earlier than everybody else. And then they put a little note of how you access them. They're going to be open up to 2 hours beforehand for you to get your little ticket to get inside. So then in your mind, if you're shopping for a deal, you're saying to yourself, I need to get there extra early so I can get a ticket to get in a deal on the iPad and the television. Value proposition. Okay. So they're going after those who are trying to save money. They're not going after everybody else. Okay. And then I just wanted to throw this in here. There is Best Buy for Business. This is the ad that they're tailoring to other businesses, similar to CDW, where they're using their brand. So this is an example of brand strategy marketing, brand strategy marketing. And so I just wanted to highlight that even though you might have a particular customer group, you will have different ads to those different groups. The other one was about the individual. This is about promoting to other businesses, and they're highlighting the value proposition with these 4 icon boxes here. Okay. All right, that's all I have. Takeaways. Marketing is a process, all about the customer. Do your research, homework, practice, practice, practice. And we'll see you on Thursday. We're going to put all this together and do a special topic on branding. Any questions, thoughts? I'm 5 minutes over, I think.
no questions?
We got a
All
quiet group tonight.
Also, just a last little follow-up. The link and the code to this meeting is always the same. So if you have anyone that you would like to share Thursday session with, it's never too late. Also, we have a boot camp number 3 coming up a little later in September. So look for the flyers to hit soon, and pass the knowledge. We like to share it with everyone. So we'll see you on Thursday. There's some comments in the chat. Thanks so much. Such valuable information. And that's it. So thank you, BP, as always. And I'll see everyone on Thursday.
You're welcome. Great to see everybody. Bye.
All right.
Thank you.